The chamber of the Zainari coalition shimmered like a galaxy trapped in glass. Its walls, forged of translucent star steel, pulsed with the light of 1,000 distant suns, each mote a testament to the Alliance's dominion over the cosmos. At the chamber's heart, a circular dais of obsidian floated, surrounded by the counselors of a dozen alien civilizations. Beings of scale, crystal, and liquid metal, their forms alien yet regal. At the dice's center stood Elena Voss, humanity's ambassador, her dark hair pulled tight, her gray eyes sharp as blades. She was a speck amidst giants, yet her voice rang clear. "Humanity is ready," Elena declared, her words echoing off the chamber's walls. "We have colonized star systems, built fleets, and survived disasters that would shatter lesser species. We seek not charity, but partnership." The counselors' responses were a cacophony of alien tongues, translated by the neural band at Elena's temple. The Zainari High Speaker, a towering figure of molten gold named Xithar, spoke first, its voice a resonant hum. "You are fragile," it said, gesturing with a limb that shimmered like liquid flame. "Your bodies break, your lives flicker out in mere decades. The void does not suffer the weak." Elena's jaw tightened. She had heard this refrain before. Humanity's biology was their curse, their short lives a mark of inferiority. "Our fragility is our strength," she countered. "We adapt, thought we endure. Name one species here that has risen so far, so fast." Murmurs rippled through the council. A crystalline being, its facets glinting like a prism, chimed in. "Your technology is crude, your ship's brittle. What can you offer the coalition?" Elena's hands clenched into fists. "Resilience," she said. "And a perspective you lack, creativity born of necessity." Xithar's golden form pulsed, a sign of amusement or disdain. "Prove it then. Until you do, you remain outsiders." Half a galaxy away, on the human colony of New Terra, the void whispered its own secrets. The planet hung in the black, a blue-green jewel cradled by twin moons, its surface dotted with domed cities and orbital platforms. In the command center of the primary platform, Commander Marcus Kane stared at a holo display, his weathered face illuminated by its flickering light. At 50, he was a relic of Earth's wars, his gray-streaked beard and scarred hands a map of battles fought and won. Beside him, Dr. Lila Chen, a wiry scientist with a shock of purple hair, tapped furiously at a console. "Marcus, look at this," Lila said, her voice a mix of excitement and unease. The holo display showed a star field, but at its edge a crimson energy signature pulsed, growing larger by the second. "It's not natural. Too structured, too fast." Kane's brow furrowed. "A ship," Lila shook her head. "Bigger, a fleet maybe, and it's headed straight for us." Kane's hand moved to the comms panel, his voice steady but urgent. "All stations, this is Commander Kane. Yellow alert. Prepare for potential hostiles." The platform hummed to life, its crew scrambling to battle stations. Kane watched the signature, his mind racing. New Terra was a frontier colony, its defenses modest, a handful of frigates, a few dozen turrets. If this was an attack, they were outmatched. Yet surrender was not in his blood. Lila's fingers danced over the console, her eyes wide. "It's accelerating. ETA 6 hours, and Marcus, there's something else. The signature's pattern matches nothing in our database. It's not Zainari, not Krothar, not anything we know." Kane's gaze hardened. "Then we'll meet the unknown head-on. Get me a full scan. I want to know what we're dealing with." As the platform braced for the approaching threat, the void remained silent, its secrets locked in the crimson pulse speeding toward New Terra. Elena's words echoed in the distance, a challenge to the galaxy. Humanity would not break. The command center of New Terra's orbital platform buzzed with controlled chaos. Holo displays flickered, showing the crimson energy signature. Now a fleet of angular obsidian ships, their hulls glinting like knives in the starlight. Commander Marcus Kane stood at the center, his scarred hands gripping the edge of the tactical console. Dr. Lila Chen, her purple hair plastered with sweat, worked frantically at a nearby station, her fingers a blur. Outside, the colony's frigates maneuvered into a defensive grid, their engines glowing blue against the void. "Status," Kane barked, his voice cutting through the din. Lieutenant Patel, a young officer with a perpetual frown, responded. "Shields at 80%, turrets online, frigates report ready, but, sir, those ships are massive. 3 times our size, minimum. Kane's jaw clenched. Numbers? 22, Patel said, and closing fast. Before Kane could reply, the comms crackled, and a voice, deep, guttural, and alien, filled the room. Terran colony, this is Warlord Vrex of the Krothar Imperium. Your presence in our domain is an affront. Surrender, or be scoured from the stars. The crew froze. Lila's head snapped up, her eyes wide. Krothar? They're myths. Raiders from the Galactic Rim. Why are they here? Kane ignored her, slamming the comms button. This is Commander Marcus Kane of New Terra. We're a peaceful colony. State your claim. Vrex's laugh was a grinding rasp. Peaceful? You squat on sacred ground, fragile ones. The void cataclysm will claim this system, and we will not suffer your filth in its wake. Surrender or burn. Kane cut the channel, his mind racing. Sacred ground, void cataclysm. The words gnawed at him, but there was no time. Patel, arm the EMP drones. Lila, get me a weakness. Anything. Lila's fingers danced over her console, pulling up scans of the Krothar ships. Their hulls are reinforced, but their energy conduits are exposed. EMPs might disrupt their shields. Marcus, this void cataclysm, it's not just a threat. I've seen the term in Zainari archives. It's a stellar event, catastrophic. Kane's eyes narrowed. Then why are they here? To loot us before it hits. Maybe, Lila said, her voice trembling. Or maybe they're causing it. The thought hung heavy, but the Krothar fleet was closing, 5 minutes out. Kane turned to the crew, his voice a steel blade. Listen up. We're outgunned, outmanned, but this is our home. They think we're fragile? Let's show them what fragile can do. Fight smart, fight hard, and don't stop. The crew roared, a mix of fear and defiance. Kane's gaze met Leela's, and she gave a small nod, her fear buried under resolve. She wasn't a soldier, but she was New Terra's best mind, and she'd fight in her own way. Outside, the battle began. Krothar ships fired first, lancing the void with crimson plasma. New Terra's frigates dodged, their smaller size an advantage, while turrets spat kinetic rounds. Kane watched the holo display, barking orders. Frigate Delta, flank left! Patel, launch the drones, now! EMP drones streaked toward the Krothar fleet, detonating in silent blooms of electric blue. 2 enemy ships faltered, their shields flickering, but the rest pressed on, relentless. A frigate, the Aurora, took a direct hit, its hull splitting in a silent fireball. Kane's fists tightened, but his voice stayed calm. Hold the line, make them bleed for every inch. Lila's console pinged. Marcus, I've got it. The lead ship, it's broadcasting a signal, tied to the energy signature. It's not just a fleet, it's a trigger. They're accelerating something big. Kane's blood ran cold. The void cataclysm? Lila nodded, her face pale. If we don't stop them, New Terra's done. The Krothar ships loomed closer, their weapons charging for a final strike. Kane's mind churned. Fight, flee, or find a way to turn their arrogance against them. The galaxy thought humans fragile, but fragility bred cunning. And cunning, Kane knew, could win wars. The sky above New Terra burned. Krothar plasma lanced through the atmosphere, turning clouds to ash and cities to rubble. On the orbital platform, Commander Marcus Kane watched the holo display, his scarred face a mask of grim resolve. The Krothar fleet had breached the outer defenses, their obsidian ships carving a path toward the colony's heart. Below, ground forces, militia, civilians, anyone who could hold a rifle, fought in the streets, their makeshift barricades crumbling under alien fire. Marcus, shields are at 20%, Lieutenant Patel shouted, his voice cracking. We've lost frigates Luna and Solace. They're targeting the power core. Kane's hand slammed the console. Reroute auxiliary power. Get the civilians to the bunkers. And where's Chen? Dr. Leela Chen, buried in a corner station, didn't look up. Her hands trembled as she parsed data, the crimson energy signature now a pulsating web across her screen. Here, she muttered, voice tight. It's worse than we thought. The void cataclysm. It's not natural. The Krothar are using a device, a destabilizer, buried in their flagship. It's tearing the star apart. Kane's gut twisted. Kayla's eyes met his, raw with fear and determination. If we hit the flagship, maybe. But Marcus, the Zainari, knew about this. Their archives mention a void collapse, a weaponized stellar event. Why didn't they warn us? Before Kane could respond, the platform shuddered, a plasma bolt grazing the hull. Alarms screamed. Patel yelled, "They're boarding us." Kane drew his sidearm, a relic from Earth's wars, and barked, "Patel, hold the bridge. Chen, keep working. Everyone else with me." He led a squad to the breach, where Crothar shock troops, hulking figures in spiked armor, poured through a molten gash. The fight was brutal, close quarters chaos. Kane's pistol barked, dropping a Crothar, while a militia woman beside him drove a scavenged plasma blade into another. Blood, human and alien, stained the deck. Half a galaxy away, Elena Voss paced the Zenari council chamber, her pleas falling on deaf ears. The high speaker, Xithar, loomed over her, its golden form pulsing with disdain. "Your colony's plight is not our concern," it rumbled. "You are fragile, unproven." Elena's voice was ice. "New Terra is under attack. The Crothar are using a weapon. Your weapon, Xithar. The void collapse. Explain that." The counselors shifted, a ripple of unease. Xithar's glow dimmed, but it said, "The Crothar are scavengers. If they wield such power, it is stolen. We owe you nothing." Elena stepped closer, unflinching. "Then you're cowards. Humanity will survive this, with or without you. But when we do, we'll remember who stood by and who didn't." A smaller counselor, a crystalline being named Vinara, caught her eye, its facets glinting with something like sympathy. As Elena stormed out, Vinara slipped her a data shard. "Not all agree," it whispered. "Find the Shadow Fleet. They may help." Back on New Terra, the platform held, but barely. Kane's squad repelled the boarders, though half fell, their bodies strewn among the wreckage. He returned to the bridge, bloodied but unbowed, to find Lila hunched over her console. "Marcus," she said, voice shaking, "the destabilizer. It's accelerating. We have hours, maybe less." Kane's chest tightened. He'd lost men, ships, hope, but not fight. "Options?" Lila hesitated. "We hit the flagship. Rig a frigate with EMPs, ram it. But, Marcus, it's a death sentence for the crew." His gaze hardened. "I'll lead it." "No," Patel snapped, stepping forward. "You're needed here. I'll go." Kane wanted to argue, but Patel's eyes burned with resolve. "All right," he said softly. "Make it count." As Patel left to prep the suicide run, Leela's console pinged, a faint signal buried in the Crothar's broadcast. "Wait," she said, fingers flying. "It's a code, old Zainari encryption. Marcus, they're not just using the destabilizer, they're hiding something. A second device on New Terra." Kane's blood ran cold, a trap within a trap. The Crothar weren't just attacking, they were playing a deeper game, and humanity, fragile or not, was caught in the center. New Terra's bunkers were a tomb of steel and shadow, their walls trembling under the Crothar bombardment. Inside, survivors huddled, soldiers, civilians, children, their faces pale but defiant. Commander Marcus Kane moved among them, his scarred hands steady as he handed out rations. The orbital platform was a ruin, its bridge barely functional, and the colony's fleet was reduced to 3 battered frigates. Yet they held. "Marcus," Dr. Leela Chen called, her voice hoarse from shouting over the chaos. She stood at a makeshift console, her purple hair matted with sweat. "The destabilizer's signal is spiking. It's now or never." Kane's gaze met hers, heavy with the weight of command. "Patel's team?" Lila shook her head. "No word. The EMP frigate went dark 10 minutes ago." Kane's gut clenched. Patel was gone, a hero's death. But the fight wasn't over. "Keep monitoring. If there's a chance, we take it." A young recruit, barely 18, approached, his rifle trembling. "Sir, the Crothar. They're landing troops. East sector. We're out of drones." Kane clapped the boy's shoulder, his voice firm. "Then we fight the old way. Hold the line, son. You're enough." Half a galaxy away, Elena Voss slipped through the Zainari capital's undercity, a labyrinth of neon and steam. The data shard from Vinara burned in her pocket, its contents a lifeline, coordinates for the Shadow Fleet, a rogue Zainari faction. She met her contact, a wiry alien named Threx, in a shadowed alcove. "You're late," Threx hissed, his scales glinting in the dim light. "Xithar's enforcers are hunting you." Elena's jaw tightened. "They can try. The Shadow Fleet. Will they help?" Threx's eyes narrowed. "If you prove your worth. Humanity's survival intrigues them, but they need more than words. Show them strength." Elena nodded, her mind racing. Strength was New Terra's fight, but she had to bridge the gap. "Get me a ship. I'll bring them proof." As Threx vanished into the shadows, a blade flashed, Xethar's assassins. Elena dodged, her diplomat's grace turning lethal. She disarmed the first, snapping its wrist, and drove its own dagger into the second. Blood pooled, alien and blue. She fled, the shard her only hope. Back on New Terra, the east sector burned. Crothar commandos, towering in spiked armor, tore through barricades, their plasma rifles searing flesh and steel. Kane led the counterattack, his pistol barking, each shot a prayer. The recruit fought beside him, his fear hardening into fury. They pushed the Crothar back, but the cost was steep. Bodies littered the ground, human and alien. Marcus, Lila's voice crackled through his comms, the destabilizer, it's not on the flagship. It's here, underground. The second device, it's a failsafe. Kane's blood ran cold. Where? Beneath a central dome, Lila said, her voice urgent. But it's guarded. Crothar elite. And Marcus, the void collapse is minutes away. Kane turned to the recruit. Hold here, I'm going under. The boy nodded, his eyes fierce. We've got this, sir. Kane descended into the tunnels, his footsteps echoing in the dark. The destabilizer was a monolith of alien tech, its core pulsing crimson. Crothar elites, 7-foot behemoths, guarded it, their eyes glowing with malice. Kane moved like a ghost, planting scavenged explosives. A guard turned, spotting him, and the fight erupted. Brutal, close, a dance of blade and fist. Kane took hits, his ribs cracking, but he triggered the charges. The destabilizer shattered, its pulse dying. Above, the sky screamed. The void collapse began, a maelstrom of light and gravity. Leela's shields flickered, barely holding. Kane emerged, bloodied but alive, and saw the Crothar fleet falter, their plan undone. Yet the colony teetered on the brink, and the stars offered no mercy. The void above New Terra roiled, a prelude to annihilation. Crothar ships loomed, their obsidian hulls scarred but unyielding, while the colony's last frigates burned in silence. In the orbital platform's shattered bridge, Commander Marcus Kane stared at the holo display, his bloodied hands gripping the console. Dr. Lila Chen stood beside him, her purple hair streaked with ash, her eyes locked on the destabilizer's signal, now a crimson heartbeat on the Crothar flagship. Marcus, we've got hours, Lila said, her voice raw. The void collapse is cascading. If we don't stop that device, New Terra's gone. Kane's jaw tightened. Then we hit the flagship, rig a shuttle with EMPs, ram it, Lila's face paled. It's suicide. Better me than everyone, Kane said, his tone steel. He turned to the crew, barking, prep the Erebus, load every MP we've got, volunteers only. A grizzled engineer, Ortiz, stepped forward, his face grim. I'm in, sir. Let's burn those bastards. Half a galaxy away, Elena Voss piloted a stolen Zainari skiff, the Shadow Fleet's coordinates a faint beacon in the dark. Her comms crackled, and Thrax's voice cut through. Elena, the Shadow Fleet's en route, but they're too far. You'll reach New Terra first. Elena's grip tightened on the controls. Then I'll buy time. Tell them to hurry. Thrax hesitated. There's more. Xethar's loyalists are tracking you. They've allied with the Crothar, shared tech, intel. This isn't just a raid. It's a purge. Elena's blood ran cold. A conspiracy, Zainari and Crothar entwined. She had proof now, but proof meant nothing if New Terra fell. Understood, she said, cutting the channel. The skiff's engines flared, hurtling her toward the void's jaws. On New Terra, the Erebus launched, a battered shuttle packed with EMPs and hope. Kane and Ortiz piloted, their faces set in grim determination. The Crothar flagship loomed ahead, a fortress of spikes and fire. Smaller ships swarmed, plasma lancing the void. The Erebus weaved, dodging death, its hull glowing with heat. Shields at 10%, Ortiz shouted, his hands flying over the controls. We're almost there. Kane's eyes narrowed, locked on the flagship's conduits. Hold steady. On my mark? A plasma bolt grazed them, frying the starboard engine. The shuttle spun, alarms screaming. Kane wrestled the controls, his voice calm. Ortiz, arm the MPs. We're going in hot. The flagship's hangar loomed, a maw of steel. Crothar drones fired, shredding the Erebus's wings. Kane slammed the throttle, and the shuttle crashed inside, skidding in a shower of sparks. EMPs detonated, a silent storm of blue, crippling the flagship's systems. Crothar troops stormed the wreck, but Kane and Ortiz fought back, pistols blazing, fists bloodied, buying seconds. Below, Lila watched the flagship falter, its destabilizer offline. But the void collapse roared, a cosmic beast of light and gravity. She activated her shields, a lattice of energy over New Terra, her voice trembling. Hold, damn it, hold. The sky split, gravitational waves tore ships apart, human and Crothar alike. The flagship exploded, a silent fireball, and the Erebus vanished in the blaze. Lila's shields held but barely, as the void devoured the stars. New Terra lay in ruins, its surface a wasteland of shattered domes and scorched earth, yet its people endured. The void collapse had raged and passed, a cosmic storm that devoured fleets and stars, leaving the colony isolated but alive. Dr. Lila Chen stood amidst the wreckage, her purple hair dusted with ash, directing survivors. Her shields had held, a miracle of human ingenuity, but the cost was etched in every face. Lila, a voice crackled through her comms, Elena Voss, aboard a Zainari skiff. I'm landing. The Shadow Fleet arrived too late, but they've pledged aid. Lila's voice was raw. Marcus, he rammed the flagship. I don't know if he... We'll find him, Elena said, firm but gentle. New Terra's standing. That's what matters. Lila nodded, though Elena couldn't see. She turned to a young medic, barely holding it together. Keep the wounded stable. We've got help coming. Beyond the planet, a Crothar frigate drifted, its hull cracked, broadcasting static. Inside, a dying warlord whispered orders, a final transmission, a seed of vengeance. The signal flickered unnoticed as New Terra focused on survival. In the void, Marcus Kane floated, his suit's oxygen critical, tethered to a fragment of the Erebus. The flagship's explosion had flung him clear, a fluke of physics. He was battered, bleeding, but alive. A Zainari scout ship, part of the Shadow Fleet, detected his beacon. Elena's voice broke through his comms, sharp with relief. Marcus, hold on, we've got you. Kane's voice was a rasp. The destabilizer, did it work? Yes, Elena said. New Terra's safe? You did it. Kane closed his eyes, the weight lifting, if only for a moment. Fragile, huh? Elena laughed, a rare sound. Not anymore. On the surface, scavengers emerged. Crothar drones, rogue and relentless, drawn to the colony's energy signatures. Lila spotted them first, her scanner pinging. Incoming, she shouted, grabbing a rifle. Survivors scrambled, forming a ragged line. The drones attacked, metallic claws slashing, but New Terra fought back. A farmer-turned-soldier drove a plasma torch into one, while Lila blasted another, her aim steady despite exhaustion. The fight escalated as a Crothar dropship, a remnant of the fleet, descended, disgorging elite troops. Lila's heart sank, but she rallied the defenders. Hold the bunkers. They don't get through. Explosions tore the ground, human and alien blood mixing in the dirt. Lila's rifle jammed, and a Crothar loomed, its blade raised. She dodged, grabbing a fallen comrade's grenade, and hurled it. The blast shredded the alien, but more came. The survivors were pushed back, step by desperate step, until a Zainari gunship roared overhead, its cannons blazing. The Shadow Fleet had arrived. The Crothar fell, their last stand broken. Lila sank to her knees, rifle smoking, as Elena's skiff touched down. The colony was battered but unbroken, a testament to human endurance. New Terra rose from its ashes, a patchwork of rebuilt domes and salvaged tech, its people hardened by survival. Commander Marcus Kane, ribs bandaged but unbowed, walked the streets, mentoring a young recruit named Jace, who'd fought beside him in the bunkers. Dr. Lila Chen, now a reluctant leader, pored over ancient alien artifacts unearthed beneath the central dome, crystalline shards pulsing with unknown energy. The Shadow Fleet's aid had bought them time, but the galaxy watched, waiting for humanity's next move. Lila, Kane said, entering her makeshift lab, any luck with those relics? Lila's purple hair fell into her eyes as she looked up, her voice tinged with awe. They're not Zainari or Crothar, older. There's a signal embedded, Marcus, a map. I think we were meant to find them. Kane frowned. Meant by who? Lila hesitated. I don't know, but it's tied to the void collapse. This wasn't an accident. Before Kane could press, a comms officer burst in. Sir, Doctor, Crothar remnant incoming, small but armed, and they're broadcasting. The signal crackled, a familiar voice. Warlord Vrex, wounded but alive. Terrans, your defiance is a stain. We will return, and the void will claim you. Kane's blood ran cold. Vrex's survival was a dagger in the dark, a promise of retribution. Leela, get the artifacts secure. Jace, with me. Half a galaxy away, Elena Voss stood before the Zainari Council, her diplomat's poise masking her fury. The chamber was silent, the counselor's alien forms, gold, crystal, liquid, staring as she played the Shadow Fleet's footage. New Terra's ruins, the void collapse, humanity's stand. You called us fragile, she said, voice like a blade. Yet we endured what you could not. Grant us membership or admit your cowardice. Xithar, the High Speaker, pulsed with unease. Your survival is notable, but the Krothar are your shame, Elena cut in, tossing a data shard onto the dais. A record of Zenari tech in Krothar hands, stolen or gifted. You armed them, you betrayed us. The council erupted, voices clashing. Venara, the crystalline counselor, met Elena's gaze, a silent ally. Xithar silenced the room, its glow dim. We will deliberate, but know this, human, the stars are not kind. Elena smirked. Neither are we. On New Terra, the Krothar remnant struck at dusk, a suicide squad of drones and commandos. Kane led the defense, Jace at his side, their rifles spitting fire. The colony's turrets roared, cutting down drones, but the commandos breached the outer perimeter, their plasma blades carving through steel. Lila, guarding the artifacts, activated a salvaged Zainari turret, its beams slicing the night. Jace, flank left, Kane shouted, pistol blazing. A Krothar loomed, its armor scorched, and Kane tackled it, driving a scavenged blade into its chest. Jace fired, downing another, his hands steady despite the chaos. The artifacts pulsed, their signal spiking, and Lila's scanner screamed, a gravitational anomaly, a shadow of the void collapse. Marcus, they're not just attacking. They're triggering something, she yelled, dodging a plasma bolt. Kane's team pushed forward, the last Krothar falling in a hail of gunfire. But the anomaly grew, a ripple in the sky. Lila's voice crackled through comms. It's a beacon, Marcus. The artifacts. They're calling something. As the dust settled, New Terra stood defiant. The Krothar defeated, but the mystery deepening. The stars shimmered, hiding secrets, and humanity braced for what came next. Months later, New Terra thrived. Its scars transformed into symbols of resilience. Rebuilt domes gleamed under twin moons, and human Zenari ships patrolled the skies, a testament to newfound alliance. Commander Marcus Kane, now a mentor to a growing militia, oversaw a ceremonial battle reenactment, his gray-streaked beard catching the starlight. Dr. Leela Chen, her purple hair tied back, analyzed the ancient artifacts in a fortified lab. Their signal, a map to a lost civilization, guiding her research. Elena Voss, humanity's voice, prepared to face the Zenari Council one final time. In the rebuilt command center, Kane addressed the militia. We've been through hell, he said, voice steady, but we're standing. Today, we show the galaxy what unbreakable looks like. Jace, the young recruit, now a seasoned fighter, nodded. For New Terra, sir. Lila's comms pinged, urgent. Marcus, the artifacts, they're active. The signal's broadcasting, and Marcus, something's responding. A fleet, unknown signature, on the horizon. Kane's blood ran cold. Vrex's final transmission echoed in his mind, a vow of retribution. Battle stations, he barked. All ships, defensive grid. Lila, get me intel. The colony sprang to life, turrets whirring, frigates launching. The holo display showed the incoming fleet, sleek, crystalline ships, neither Krothar nor Zainari, their hulls shimmering like liquid starlight. A transmission crackled, a voice ancient and resonant. Terrans, we are the Sentinels, keepers of the Void's secrets. You have awakened our beacon. Prove your worth or be judged. Leela's hands shook as she scanned the fleet. Marcus, they're the artifact's creators, beyond anything we've seen. Weapons, shields, tech. If they're hostile, we're outmatched. Kane's jaw set. Then we fight smart, scramble the EMP drones. Jace, lead the ground defenses. Leela, find me a weakness. The Sentinels advanced, their ships firing beams of blinding light. New Terra's frigates danced, dodging and retaliating with salvaged Zainari cannons, their EMP drones blooming in the void. A human ship, the Phoenix, took a direct hit, its hull splitting but the crew ejected, defiant to the last. Kane piloted a command frigate, barking orders. Flank right, target their conduits. On the surface, Jace's team held the bunkers, turrets blazing. A Sentinel drone breached the line, its crystalline claws slashing, but Jace tackled it, driving a plasma blade into its core. Hold the line, he roared, blood dripping from a gash on his arm. Lila's scanner pinged, a faint energy signature in the Sentinel flagship. Marcus, their power core. It's unstable. Overload it, and the fleet shuts down. Kane's eyes narrowed. Rig the Erebus 2 with EMPs. I'm going in. Jace's voice cut through comms, urgent. Sir, ground drones are overwhelming us. We need air support. Kane hesitated, the colony's fate in his hands. Lila, take the bridge. Support Jace. He launched the Erebus 2, a lone shuttle against a crystalline armada. Sentinel beams grazed the hull, alarms screaming, but Kane held course, diving into the flagship's hangar. EMPs detonated, a storm of blue, and the flagship's core flared, then died. The fleet faltered, ships drifting, lifeless. On the ground, Xenari gunships arrived, their cannons shredding the drones. Jace's team pushed forward, reclaiming the bunkers, their cheers echoing through the night. Above, the Sentinel transmission returned, softer now. You are worthy, Terrans. The void is yours. In the Xenari council chamber, Elena stood tall, the Sentinel's words broadcast live. Sithar's golden form dimmed, awed. Humanity has proven its strength, it said. Membership is granted. Elena's voice rang clear. We are not fragile. We are unbreakable. Back on New Terra, Kane, Lila, and Jace watched the stars, a new energy signature flickering, a potential ally or threat, but humanity was ready. They called us fragile, Leela said softly, but we endured the void. Kane nodded, eyes on the horizon. And now the stars are ours.